Hello everyone, I hope you're doing well today wherever you're listening. Today is our last study of Jesus' ministry and also our last lesson in our Road to Calvary study. This morning we will be highlighting one of Jesus' disciples and how we can apply a change to our perspective that is of great benefit to us and our lives. Before I get into the study, I want to backtrack to the start of Jesus' ministry. In all four of the gospel texts, Jesus says the kingdom of God is at hand. This drew many followers who heard that but didn't quite understand, which we revisit later in today's lesson. This phrase also drew the attention of the Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, and other religious elites of the day. Throughout Jesus' ministry, they often asked who gave him the authority to do and say the things he did and said, to which he always answered that he was the Son of God. This angered the religious leaders, and they sought ways to kill Jesus. And here enters the focus of our lesson today, Judas Iscariot. The Gospel writers tell us that Judas was one of, if not the most trusted of the 12, as he handled the money. But that said, we are also told that he was not trustworthy as he stole funds. I also find it interesting that Judas is distinguished with the title Iscariot. Iscariot is not a last name like we use today, like John Smith, but is used to separate him from another Judas who was a loyal follower of Jesus. The Iscariot title has two possible meanings. One is a man from Kerioth, which was a village in that day. It would be like saying Jeff from Los Angeles or Katie from New York in today's language. However, there is another option. It could mean dagger man, as one of the Sicarii, who were a zealot group known for carrying a dagger in their belt. It doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things which is correct, but what we can see about Judas is the second translation explains his behavior in our passage of the day, found in John chapter 12, verses 4 through 6, where Mary anoints Jesus with an expensive perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of his disciples, he who was about to betray him, said, "Why was not this ointment sold for 300 denarii and given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief, and having charge of the money bag he used to help himself to what was put into it. From this, we can see Judas is not interested in worship, but rather the earthly picture for an earthly gain. This story also appears in all four of the gospel texts, and this leads me to one thought and one application for us today. My thought is this: Judas didn't betray Jesus for the money. That was just the payment. I personally believe that it was a lack of spiritual integrity. Judas had a means of income by taking from the ministry funds. In doing so, he opened himself up to spiritual attack and was used by the enemy to betray Jesus for an earthly reward. My application for us goes back to the point I made about the kingdom of heaven. The religious leaders were so focused on the present that they missed the eternal. They saw a person breaking the Sabbath, not God incarnate healing people. They saw a person challenging their authority and their law rather than the one who has all authority and who wrote the law in the first place. Then we have Judas and others who saw someone who could overthrow Rome rather than the one who could overthrow death and sin. It's here where we should take notice. We often get so caught up on the here and now where we forget that God is eternal. He alone can see eternity to eternity and everything in between. That's why we can see God working in our lives when we look back, but in that moment, we thought that he had forgotten about us. In short, let's cast our eyes on the eternal instead of the temporary and trust that God will take care of us as he holds tomorrow in one hand and us in the other. Thank you for listening today. I hope you learned something. Next week will be our Good Friday lesson. I hope you have a great day, a wonderful weekend, and God bless you all.